Hi, Shanna Forrestall here with Not Just Small Talk. My guest today is Mark Preston. And Mark is a voiceover artist, he is a voiceover coach, and he hosts an online community for all things voiceover. You're going to want to meet this guy. He's a beautiful soul. We had a great time working together recently on the digital book for my children's book, Why the Girl Became a Cat. He is a wonderful, positive, inspiring person, and I think you're going to really enjoy hearing more about his industry and the way voices shape the way we see the world. Hi, Shanna Forrestall here with Not Just Small Talk. My guest today is Mark Preston, and we're going to be talking about the voiceover connection because this guy is humbly calling himself the voiceover deity.
We're not going with God, we're going with deity. I like deity. I think
we're going to go with deity.
It's fancy.
It's a little less arrogant, maybe, than God. I don't know. You guys call him what you want. Voiceover God, voiceover deity, whatever you want to call him, he's here. And I'm really excited to talk to him.
Beau Buddha.
Ooh, the Beau Buddha. It's got a ring.
Kind of the whole Eastern side of things, you know.
Exactly. So Mark and I met, when did we actually meet? I mean, we kind of knew of each other.
As my kids make fun of me, I lose track of years. Because I'll say, oh yeah, I remember a couple months ago. My daughter's like, you know, Daddy, that was about a year ago. I'm like, okay.
I do that all the time. I'm horrible at time. But anyway, we kind of knew of each other and didn't really know each other. And then when I did the digital version of my children's book, Why the Girl Became a Cat, Mark very generously offered to help me record that in the studio so that we could get the voiceover done for the digital book. And that's when we became like, you know, God and Goddess friends.
God, you're goddess now. Oh,
I've always been goddess. Not a voiceover, just
I was going to call you my queen. But
just
that's
life,
okay.
you know. So, so we connected on a deity level and then became friends. But he's such a great guy. And like, to get serious, you know, like, because we do that sometimes on the show.
I can be serious? I'm going to take this microphone off.
For like 5 minutes.
Okay, I'll give you a little serious time. Why not? Okay.
But I love talking to people about what they do, and I think especially voiceover in particular as compared to like just regular acting or some other things, people don't know a lot about it, like how it works, why it's important, things like that. So I wanted to chat about it with someone who actually does know. So Mark lives here in Louisiana, but he does voiceover for projects in a lot of different areas, right? So one thing about technology, it's allowed you to work from here and put your voice in many different places. Talk about that.
Well, yeah, that's actually the biggest change. You know, when I was coming up in voiceover, I've been kind of first as of February 1st. I've worked with the microphone for 30 years, so I'm feeling kind of old now. I'm feeling my age now.
Wow.
But no, back then you had to live in LA or New York. You had to live or in a top 10 market like LA, Chicago, Dallas.
Yeah.
Now I grew up in Dallas, and back then we had technology which is still used. It's called ISDN. You know, people they got a little. It's basically about a $5,000 box if they have it wherever you are in a studio, wherever you could be in Bangladesh, whatever. But you connect over an ISDN line. It's an older technology, still used. But what happened is people couldn't put in that much money to go buy that. But what happened is with the advent of high-speed internet and software, it's made it possible for you to live anywhere to do voiceover. So a lot of the work that was traditionally only LA. You can do it everywhere.
And that's handy because you have family here and you prefer to live here, I think.
Yeah, you know, until my youngest daughter graduates from high school, then, you know, they know I'm missing living near the beach. You know, I used to live in Southern California and I miss it quite a bit just because I'm a beach guy. I'm like, you know, if it wasn't this, I'd just be a beach bum, you know. I'm
the beach bum Buddha.
The beach bum Beau Buddha. Yeah, my business card just got rewritten. Thank you. But yeah, you can literally live anywhere. Yeah. And studio equipment, back in the day, you had reel-to-reel tape machines, and you had a lot
I remember that from college, like cutting and trying to.
Yes, razor blades, grease pencils, tape, and all that jazz. And it's, you know, back in the day, that's you had to have all that gear. It's a big outlay of cash. And at the time when I started getting going, I was working at ABC Radio Network, had a background, and I came out of radio. Which is pretty common. And I had access to all their production studios, which were never all of them, half of them were always open,
Right.
So I'd go downstairs, go in the production studio, and just play, and I'd have access. That would be my production studio.
Right.
And then after, I made some money, I bought my own gear. But now it's so inexpensive. People can get in, they can buy the gear they need for less than $3,000.
Wow.
It used to be
Yeah.
$10,000 was a benchmark, so
That's
it's
great.
very accessible to get
Yeah,
into
good.
VO.
Yeah, technology really has changed so many industries right now. It's adjusting things. So let's talk about the voiceover, like what voiceover does, because I think some people, when they watch a movie, they don't understand that all of the sounds you see were not made when that scene was shot.
Oh,
In
yeah.
fact, very little of it was.
Yeah, the last thing I did, actually, I'm on a camera actor also, occasionally, unless I break the camera, which his face usually does. But last thing I was in was supposed to be, take place in 1963. It was a big cocktail party. But the funny thing, people don't understand, it still makes me laugh a little bit. You're on set and it's just dead silent, except for you and the person you're acting with. Fast forward months later, comes out on TV and you hear music playing, glasses clinking, chitter, the
Right.
ADR, or the, people somewhere in some studio
Right.
in LA or wherever have gone in and done ADR.
Walla Walla,
yeah,
whatever.
just
And let's talk about that, because if you've never experienced that, I actually did some for a show and it was a blast. And you go in and you become the crowd sound. So it's like 5 of you in a room and they're like, okay, you're at a party, and they'll give you a little bit about the story, so the things you talk about can be relevant. Because even though you're not necessarily hearing the specifics, they try to keep the specifics true to the story. So they don't want you talking about, Uber when it's 1963 or whatever. So you
Right.
try to be true, and they try to get the voices to sound. You do this chitter chatter, and then they just layer it.
Right.
And then they put in, like you said, all the other little sounds, the
Now,
clinking of the glasses.
I haven't really done that though, but I know people are in these loop groups, and actually
Yeah.
they all know each other, and they all kind of show up to the studio like, oh, hey, who are we today? Well, we're in a dinner party, or like, what are
Right.
you doing now? We're pretending
I
like we're
did
in
one
an
show,
airport.
but I did like 6
Yeah.
episodes of the loop group, and it was a blast. I would love to do more of that. It was really fun.
That's true. A lot of
It's a
people
lot of
enjoy that.
improv, and it's like,
That's
you're
the
just thinking
key,
on your
yeah.
feet, and like then I did this thing where I did scream for a horror thing or something. I don't know,
Really,
it's
it's great.
crazy. Yeah,
Wow,
it was
that's
great.
it's so funny because it seems so out of context. Like, okay, now just randomly scream or randomly do that, and then the only time I've ever done that is when I have to kind of, a lot of times actors will do that in movies. Like the mic didn't pick you up. You have to go back in and re-record. You'll look at your lips and make sure that you're matching it up. But it's fun. It's a creative deal. No matter what you're doing with the microphone, it's just you're still acting. No matter if you're doing a commercial.
Right.
That's a lot of people don't really get that about voiceover. It is acting.
Yes.
You just don't see the face. You don't see.
If you
you don't
do
see
it
a vision.
well, it absolutely is, because you tap into your emotions, you use your body.
Emotions.
You're
That's
fully
what
invested.
That's what I
if
tell my
it's done
students.
well.
The emotion is where it begins and ends, and people think voiceover is people talking like this, and that's like the kind of the cliche announcer circa 1985 or something.
Right.
Really it's about. I tell my students, you're the conduit of emotion. Somebody somewhere has written something down. There's a coffee bean and tea leaf in LA on their laptop typing up a script,
Right.
and then they're thinking, here's how I want somebody to feel when they hear this.
Right.
Then the voiceover talent sits between the writer and so you have to kind of bring that to life, and
Right.
that's the challenge, but also that's the fun.
Yes.
That's the play, as I call it.
So you also are a coach for people who are studying voiceover or want to get better at voiceover. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, about 16 years ago, I got I actually had an agent who said, you're doing voiceovers, so I've got this. There was a talent at the agency who also wanted to do voiceover. They had never done it, so I was like, and I remember back to my mentor, a fellow named Jerry Houston in Dallas, who was very much kind of one of those guys who just wanted to just kind of hang out, just shoot the breeze, talk about stuff, and I learned so much about the business. He was already in his 60s by then. I was a puppy voice guy, about 20, 21 years old, and he was very generous with his time, and I really credit him with my business acumen. This is a business,
Yes.
because you're always working on the skills, but you gotta be a pro out of the gate to be taken seriously. So anyway, about 16 years ago, I started coaching, and I really enjoyed the interaction with people. There's a lot of people who I usually get 3 people come to me. There's like they're a man or a woman of a certain age, 40, 50 plus, and they're like, I always want to do voiceover. I've been told I've got a great voice or something. That's just something that's on their radar.
And they want to learn how to use it.
Absolutely, or somebody who's worked in radio. They're used to working with a mic. My specialty, I kind of have a specialty. I work with actors a lot of times. Actors who have a lot of training, and it's a very transferable skill.
Right.
But VO is its own craft, and
Right.
sometimes actors get themselves into trouble because they don't really get this is a different thing. There's some technical technique
Right.
to it. There's also just an approach and how to, because actors, you have facial expression, you have
Right.
body language,
Right.
you have so many things at your disposal, wardrobe,
Right.
set,
Right.
your setting, your set. And VO, man, it's all your voice.
It's
you
all
know.
about
It-
compressing and just using that one thing to communicate.
Yeah, like I love this quote from Bernie Mac. He said, "It's not what you do, it's how you do it. It's not what you say, it's how you say it." And the irony in voiceover is it's thinking about how you say it is not the key. The key starts with emotion.
How you feel.
Right. So that's where actors really have a leg up. And so I've worked with a number of. Since I'm a dad and I got 3
Right.
kids, I enjoy working with kid actors. I tell you, kids blow most grown-ups out of the water because they still have play.
Right.
And that's one thing I love, because you
Right.
tell them, okay, now pretend like you da-da-da-da-da. And
Right.
there's like, boom, they're right after it. And I always use the example of the grown-ups. And I'm like, okay, now listen, when I was a kid, my wagon, that was a fire truck. The garden hose was a fire hose. I was
Right.
a fireman. Intellectually,
Yeah.
I know it's not, but you're playing.
Right.
And so that's where I find that you get people who can do that, but are actually a bit older. Those people of a certain age, they have life under the belt. They
Right.
had disappointments and
Right,
joys,
right.
and they know a cast of characters in their life they can pull from, a sense, memory, and all that. And they really create. They get into the creation process. They love it. So it really, I work with people from different backgrounds, but those kind of fall in those 3 categories: actors, radio
Right.
people, or just people out of the blue. I've always been told I have a nice voice.
That's great. And you don't have to be in Louisiana to work with them. Like people
No.
people can just call in. With technology now, you can just zoom in, you zoom in.
Yeah, I use Zoom for most of my students. Actually, I only have one. I'm actually working with an actor. She's not even working with me for voiceover. She's more kind of she's very unique in that her look doesn't really match necessarily her presentation, and so her agent wanted her to kind of work on that. So that's kind of a little
Making
side
that
thing I
match
was
a little
doing.
bit, yeah.
But I work with everybody on Zoom. I probably have 4 actors I'm working with in LA right now, and I actually have one person in the Philippines, one person in Toronto. I have certain specialty that I focus on as a talent, but in voiceover coaching, I work on like narration, commercial. Everybody knows what a commercial is.
Right.
And promo, which is kind of the voice of TV stations, of TV
Right.
networks, and those are the 3 things I work on. I don't do animation.
Right.
As a talent, I'll do it, but I don't feel like I'm as competent as some other real great pros out there to teach it. You know?
Yeah. Huh, that's interesting. So what would you say to someone who's interested in this? Just call you and try it?
The number one thing I tell anybody who wants to do voiceover, if they want to do VO, you have 2 ears and 1 mouth. Listen. Really tune into what's out there. When commercials come on TV, close your eyes. Just listen to the spot. Just listen to the commercial.
That's good advice.
Listen to the narration. I have a Facebook community for voiceover talent, and I just posted something today by Peter Coyote, who's one of my favorite voiceover talent. He does a lot of narration. And if you just listen, you start gathering that something special is happening. Actors know this is just making interesting decisions. That's really where it's at. So the way I look at it is just start listening. See what turns you on. See what grabs your attention. Everybody's inspired to get into this by something.
Right.
If the thing you're trying to do is like, I want to make a little extra money, that's kind of not the great way to come at it, because you're kind of putting the cart before the horse. There should be something that kind of inspires you. That should inspire you about voiceover.
It's an art. It's a craft.
And
so you want to come
precisely.
in with some talent and some ability and the ability to learn and study and grow.
Absolutely.
And
Craft
not just-
is the word you use. Craft.
Because talking is not
yeah.
enough. Voiceover is done well. It's a talent. It's a gift. It's something you work on. You practice just like you would acting. You would act in class.
And that is the
Study.
one thing that's hard to get through people's heads. Let me rephrase. Anybody that has worked in acting gets it usually
Right.
naturally. They understand the direction.
Right.
I don't think people understand. It's just like people want to be an actor. People do background like, I want to be an actor. It's like, well, you have to understand there's a different.
It's a
You're being
whole-
called upon to do different things.
A whole bunch of things you need to know.
Yeah, you have more responsibility. There is you know, the idea of being kind of emotionally naked, you got to put your emotions into it. That's something that's uncomfortable for a lot of people.
And then also understanding the technical side of it. I'm sure there are technical things with voiceover, just like there are with acting.
Yeah, you know,
technical,
technical,
to understand
just
the cameras and everything that's happening.
Absolutely,
To
you know,
make it.
yeah, like
work.
people like doing their own setup, doing their own auditions. But in voiceover, you really have, that's a great point, because people have to have a command of the technical, because oftentimes, about 90+% of the time, you're in your own studio doing your own thing, or your own recording. So I'm working with an actor who's she was on Walking Dead. She's in LA. And she, you know, ladies, I mean, like, you know, I'm not really a fashionista by any stretch of the imagination. Ladies usually have a lot more clothes in their closet. Clothes do a great job of being, you know, you have a great sound isolated room in your closet. So she goes into her closet with her laptop, her microphone, her little interface that connects her microphone to her computer, and she records national stuff in her closet. And so, you know, but you have to understand a little bit of the technical. But that's pretty easy. You can spend a little weekend just doing some reading, YouTube videos, go to voiceover Facebook groups. But you have to understand the technical. You have to understand it, like kind of the point of what does somebody want? What do you need to do if you want to get into voiceover?
Right.
Go listen to other voice talent. Go listen to voiceover demos. Go to talent. Understand, like you said, the magic C word, craft. Understand the craft. Understand what differentiates you as an actor to you as a on-camera actor to you as a voiceover talent. Or some people say voice actor, but whenever they say voice actor, I always think radio play. You know, whenever. So I always think voice talent or voiceover. Voice dude.
And then speaking of demos, that's something you do as well. So he'll do like so many classes and get you ready, and then help people record a proper demo.
Well, demo for people who don't know what a demo is basically, it's your calling card. It's a montage of some samples of stuff. Sometimes it's things you may have done. You've done a big national commercial, but more often than not, people are going in with a professional demo producer, which is a big thing I recommend. It's like, hey, I got a buddy who works at a radio station. No, your demo is going to be the beginning, the kind of the fulcrum of everything in your branding and what you say to the world. This is who I am. And so I say, you know, work with a coach, find your signature, what you're really good at doing. And then once you do that, you sit, and you know, I tell my students that, listen, you know, I don't have to do your demo. I actually only do a certain amount of demos. I just, with my production schedule, don't have a lot of time to do. They're time intensive. But find somebody you can trust, ask around, because that's gonna be only like 1 minute, maybe 6 to 7. It's like playing Tetris. You do like 6 commercials, and you take a block from each one and put them together. And you have a demo for every what we call genre of voiceover. That's one thing people, they don't understand. There are some very specific genres. I focus on promo. I'm primarily the voice of TV stations and TV networks. And I narrate documentaries. But people do animation. That's a different deal. It's a different market. It's a different demo, different marketing. You know, you reaching out to different people who do the hiring. Commercials, which is big now. A lot of web video. What they call explainer videos, corporate stuff that doesn't even end up on TV or radio.
Just for social.
Yeah, and the thing is, the people who do the hiring for each one of those genres are different. They ask, you need a different demo for each, and so you at least need a coach to sit down and say, this is what it is and what it is not. These are the things that don't get yourself into trouble. The downside of technology being so accessible is people jump right into it. You know, because you can record something and have it sound okay. But man, the moment you do that and you put yourself out there, you've just made your first impression. And guess what? People remember a awesome sounding demo. If you rock it, they remember you. And if you just stunk up the joint, they're going to remember that too. Mediocre, somewhere in the middle, they may not be memorable, but they have a memory if you just like, this person's not serious. And the other thing is, it says the word serious is, you know, you want to get an agent, which is very helpful. Having a professional demo is a sign of seriousness. You've invested in yourself. You've invested in your career. You took the time to understand the industry, the craft, like you said. So do it right. Be a pro out of the gate. That's a mantra and a big drum I beat with anybody I speak with. It's like, I don't take on every student who wants to work with me. I mean, I don't discourage, but I do say, here's what you should expect, here's what you should do. Some people maybe disagree, go off to another coach. You know, don't get me wrong, there's like in acting, there are all kinds of charlatans moving about, they're willing to take anybody's money. But I don't want anybody wasting money unless they're really, you know, if they're ready to make an investment, they want to have some fun, be serious, even if they want to do it just as a hobby. go for it. But understand there's certain things you need to do if you really want to get into it.
Right. And so tell me about your Facebook group and then how people can get a hold of you.
My Facebook group, actually it's very easy to get to the Facebook group. I got a URL, went on the Webernets, got me one of those.
URL?
Yeah, I'm from Texas, you see. It's just the voiceovercommunity.com.
Okay, so
and,
that's easy.
we got a lot of pros, got some agents and managers and just talent on there, just kind of floating around talking about voiceover. But, my website is markprestonconsulting.com. And it's MARC, by the way.
Right.
But yeah, the thing is, just anybody should do the research. But voiceover is there's a lot more work out there than it used to be. But the thing is, you also have a lot more people out there trying to go for it. So you have the waters are kind of muddied a little bit because now that the rates and whatever do get kind of people like, I'm just getting into voiceover. It's a $500 job. I'll charge $50 so I can. And all that does is collectively bring our rates down. Yeah, but of course, a lot of people are union. A lot of people in LA are union, and that's one of the things that I'm like. It's the greatest gig in the world. I've got 3 kids in private school. I've got a roof over my head, food to eat, a car to drive. All just talking into a microphone. I feel very fortunate.
Right.
But don't get me wrong. I made a lot of mistakes, and that's the key. If you're not ready to make some mistakes, find something else to do. Acting, mistakes are where you do the learning.
And if you're not ready to take it serious and to get some training and do the investment and the time and everything to do it.
But also research your training. It's not hard to, if you really ask around, whether it be my Facebook group, there's a couple other good ones out there that I like. People will give you good feedback, but make sure, and not the only downside, and you go back to, you probably remember those news groups and stuff before the advent of Facebook and everybody's talking. It's usually people just getting into it that just know just enough to make them dangerous are the ones spewing the most opinions.
Right.
Find the pros and say, hey, how go to their. Everybody's got a website.
Right.
And one of the keys I say, if you want to work with a coach, now there are a few really fabulous coaches that have never done voiceover. They come from an agency background, or they work for an ad agency, talent agency, or they're creative director of a TV network or something. They know their stuff, don't get me wrong. But by and large, you're going to work with voiceover talent.
Right.
And if you work with voiceover talent, don't just go to their site, their website, and just listen to a demo. They should have work samples up, things that they've done that you can see.
Right.
Because anybody can have a great sounding demo. They can be produced and look and sound great.
Right.
But if you go out there and say, well, I can see this commercial, I hear this TV promo they did for NBC or something, then they're in the game. They have a certain business acumen, and they're not just somebody that got a great demo and then hung out their coaching shingle and said, hey, come give me some money, I'll talk story with you.
That's good advice. Well, thank you so much for coming on and talking to me about it. And guys, if you want more information, go to his website, the Voiceover Community.
The Facebook group, the Voiceover Community.
Voiceover Community.
Well, that'll take you to the Facebook group.
Will take you to the Facebook group.
Or just Mark Preston
and then
Consulting.
his website, if you want some consulting,
They just come by, say, if you just want to shoot me a note, say
or if
hi.
you just want to talk to him and just hear his voice, just call. We'll just give out his number. You just call and say.
Yeah. No, actually, it's funny because somebody will call up and go, wow, okay, like, you should do voiceover. Have you ever thought about that?
No.
I was like, now here's the deal. Now I do want to clarify one thing. I didn't come from a background. I do more things and more like where I'm commanding more authority, whatever. But if you watch TV, you listen to the radio, most of the commercials, there aren't people that sound like me.
Right.
So the key is you have to be real or authentic, average everyday person. Don't take that as an insult. So you sound like an average everyday person. That is who is booking commercials now. And just that's what I say. Listen, use your ears, understand what's out there. And as a talent, you still do that because trends change year to year, and you want to make sure you're staying up with the trends so you still have money coming in.
That's good advice. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, Shanna Forrestall with Not Just Small Talk with my guest, Mark Preston.